Hi, my name is Izabella and I'm 16 years old. This video is part of my Girl Scout Gold Award project. The goal of my project is to inspire teenagers to sew as well as do other handicrafts. Sewing is a great skill to have. It allows you to make and repair things for yourself and other people. Last fall, I hosted a sewing day with 24 teens and adults who together sewed 74 pillowcase dresses for girls living in poverty all around the world. A few weeks later, I interviewed several people of varied ages who all love to sew. You'll hear them talk about their interest in sewing and the many benefits of sewing. Hope you enjoy! How old were you when you started to sew?
About 12.
About 12?
Yeah.
And why that age and not younger or not older?
Well, I was in Japan. My dad was in the service after the war. And there were a lot of things for Americans and for the kids to do too. There were a lot of families there. And they had classes that we could go to learn different stuff.
Let's see, the first time I actually sewed something like hand sewing, I was about 6 or 7, and I made like a little beanbag kind of thing. It was actually at Girl Scouts.
I probably learned how to sew when I was an early teenager, maybe 12 or 13, but we're talking just how to sew on a button, nothing more complicated than that. My mother is great at all kinds of things involving fabric. I mean, whether it's quilting or cross stitch or crochet or just repairing stuff or attaching patches, she's great at it. She would have been happy to teach me more. I just wasn't interested. But just like she made sure that I knew how to do laundry and how to iron my clothes, I knew how to sew on a button so I could take care of myself a little bit when I got out of the house.
Bapchi, who taught you how to sew?
When I was a young military wife, had nothing else to do, officer's wife offered the classes for 6 weeks, I believe. And I took the class and I got the idea from her to do something with my hands, like sewing.
I actually didn't start sewing until I was required to in junior high school in our home economics class. And we had to make a pleated skirt and a couple other things to meet the requirements of the class.
Why did you start to sew?
Well, I had a dear friend who was about 2 years older than me, who lived across the street, and she was taking home ec at school. And so she was beginning to learn to sew, and it was just something we could do together and have fun.
When I was growing up, my mother made most of our clothes because we didn't have a lot of money, so she did it out of necessity. So I decided I was never going to sew because I didn't like all the handmade clothes. But then when I became an adult and I realized it was a lot less expensive to make my own curtains and make my own pillows, that I started sewing, and then I took off.
Because I had lots of time on my hands to begin with, so I had to do something. And then after I had my 2 little daughters out of need, I began to sew because stores back then was not as plentiful as they are now. Right. There were a few opportunities to buy clothes, so that's how I began sewing, getting idea and sewing it myself for the little girls.
I'm a science teacher. Science. And I personally really like making things myself. I used to work as an engineer. That's what I studied before I decided to become a teacher instead. And so I like being efficient. I like making good use out of the materials that I've got. I like being self-sufficient. I like knowing how to do things for myself and not have somebody else do them for me, unless it's something I really can't do. And I like being creative. I like making new things. I like doing things my own way.
My mom made me a costume that was a majorette's costume. And I stood beside her and watched her while she was sewing. Every time she'd do something new to it, I was just like, how'd she do that? It was like a puzzle that had all these different steps, but they all built upon each other. To see a costume come out of a flat piece of fabric, to go from one-dimensional to three-dimensional, was the coolest thing.
So, who taught you how to sew?
I learned some stuff from my mom, like hand sewing and stuff, but my grandma did a lot of machine sewing, and so she taught me how to do machine sewing stuff because she used to make pajamas and stuff for my sister and my brother and I. And once she kind of stopped sewing, I kind of went to YouTube and I learned how to do some stuff on YouTube, just quick things on how to fix stuff and
Yeah.
how to create a whole dress, that kind of
Wow.
thing too.
A lot of mine is learning by myself, to teach myself, to look it up, to figure it out. When I'd come up and decide I wanted to learn how to hand smock, I got a book, read it, did it.
Yeah.
So, whether it's right or not, I'd come up with something. So I generally teach myself.
Did your mother teach you how to sew?
Not actively.
Okay. So how'd you learn?
I watched. That's how I learned, is by watching, asking questions. And I was lucky in another way, and that is that my mom liked to watch TV. And so when I would make a mistake, she wouldn't mind undoing it for me while she was watching TV.
Oh,
It gave her a good reason to sit down and watch TV.
yeah.
So that worked out well too.
What do you enjoy most about sewing?
I don't know, I enjoy like just being able to work with my hands and then create something that I can wear. I don't know, I always find it hard to go shopping in stores and stuff because either I find something I like and it's not in my size, or I find something in my size and I don't like it, you
Yeah.
know? And so being able to find something that I like that's not my size and be like, well, I can get this in a really big size and then make it my size. Or I can go home and just design something that I like and then go buy the fabric and make it myself.
I like having a finished product when I spend my time on something. I like to have something to show for it. I guess that's a gratification thing or something.
Yeah.
And I can fix things that I can use parts of even to make something else, or it leads to a lot of full closets of things.
Oh, I think the idea of sewing is very good for anybody. You can use for many things, your skills for many things, and you don't require supervision. You just do whenever you can do. So it's like a hobby. It's a hobby, very relaxing hobby.
Being able to create, I don't know anything better than that, other than, love and all that stuff, but, it's just, it keeps life exciting. You never know when somebody's going to love something you made.
Right.
Once you make something and then you see somebody using it or playing with it, oh, that's wonderful.
What things have you sewn? Can you show me some?
Sure. I like to make things for the house, and I like to make gifts. So I just this week made a pillow for my porch out of this sun-resistant fabric so that it would be able to be outdoors. I love making pillows, so I made this car pillow. And in my family, I made everybody a car pillow for Christmas. So you could use it when you're driving and riding in a car.
I didn't do much dressmaking in college.
Yeah.
So, but after that, I was going to be married. So
Yeah.
I looked at wedding gowns, and we went into New York and looked at Lord and Taylor and places, and everything was too fussy.
Yeah.
So I decided I'd put together the parts of it that I liked and try and make it. So I had three
Yeah.
patterns that I bought and put together. One was for the train, and one was for the bodice, and one was for the skirt. And it cost like $22 for all the fabric.
Wow. $22 for a wedding dress. That's crazy. Did you make
Yeah,
that
did it
whole
all.
thing?
And her
Wow.
hair is stitched on with a sewing machine.
Whoa.
So
that's
before you stuff it, you put the hair on by separating the hair and then stitching through the middle of it. What I would love for everybody to know that's watching this video is once you understand how to create something with your hands, and you can see sort of the progression from where you are now to where you want it to be. That is such an exciting thing, and it keeps me out of trouble.
As children came along, I think one of my first projects was I wanted to make christening gowns for them. This particular thing that I did is what goes into creating the top. So it was just strips. So here this comes together, and then you lay it out, and then the pattern, it gets cut and goes in. This is also just a 2-strip, same way with this, and then I just thread the ribbon, stitched all this together. I found a very simple pattern, made these gowns.
This is one of the things I learned how to do from a YouTube tutorial, and it's a piano dress. So
Nice. Do you wear that for your concerts?
I wore it for a college fair.
Oh.
So I could kind of demonstrate my talents for all the schools I was looking at.
Yeah.
You know, because I want to go into fashion design. So I was like, you know what? I'll just make a dress, and I can be like, yeah, here are my skills.
When I retired, I had more time on my hands and began to think of other things to do to advance myself in sewing. Actually, I began to sew quilts, the big quilts. So I made quilts for all of my 4 children. And then I began making quilts for my grandchildren. So I made 7 quilts for my 7 grandchildren. And then I began to do the pillows and the pot holders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I like complicated looking quilts that look complicated but actually put them together are really easy. This is one I made, and I won't ever make another one like this because you have to sew each piece individually. There's 1,700 pieces of fabric sewed together in here.
Wow.
Now this is a Bonnie Hunter, and it's called Smith Mountain Lake. I started it about 2 years before I retired, and I finished it in my first year of retirement. So I've had this quilt for a while. I just didn't get it finished because each of these blocks have 29 pieces in them.
Okay.
And there's a lot. There's a lot of pieces
Yeah.
and some small pieces and things like that. And these will just go on my bed. Sometimes I put on my beds just to add color to the room. Every quilt I made, I expect people to use it
Yes.
because that's what they're for.
Yes. What could you say to inspire young people to want to sew?
Oh, I think anybody should learn how to sew, partially so you can repair things, which is fun. But I think what a lot of young sewers like to do now is take something old, like say an old denim shirt, and turn it into something else. They might turn it into a pocketbook, they might turn it into a top with some fabric sewed on the bottom. Even changing buttons on a shirt can be really fun, just to kind of step it up a bit and make it look kind of funky. Doesn't have to be anything big, but it's just kind of fun to make your own thing.
Knowing how to sew on just a button, I think, is a great skill to have in an emergency for anybody. But frankly, I think if you're going to be an adult, unless you want to pay somebody else to do it for you, it's really nice to know how to do it for yourself and do it the way you like. So it is efficient, it is self-sufficient, and it lets me be a little bit creative, all of which are things that I enjoy and appreciate.
Take the opportunity to be creative and to sew things that you enjoy to sew. You know, not everybody has to sew outfits or, you know, or home stuff or quilts, but you know, whatever you enjoy, concentrate on that.
Just try it, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing we ever did turned out perfect, but it was wearable. But just try it. You know, it's like anything else. Nothing comes easy the first time, but it's practice, practice, practice. And you know, a straight stitch can have some curves in it, and it's okay. You won't be able to tell that much on the outside.
Oh, learn how to sew, learn how to do other stuff and things, because you never know when you will need it. I'm old already, and my children still bring stuff for me to fix it, to repair it, to do something. So you can use it through the most of your life.
Knowing the basics in sewing, it's a freedom that I can go when I needed the dress for a wedding, didn't find anything that I liked, and considerably cheaper on a lot of things. And there again too, when we go and I find some maybe secondhand clothing for the grandbaby, if something doesn't fit or it's torn, or I've replaced elastic in the legs as it's worn out, so I can still kind of repurpose and kind of second use, third use clothes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice to know how to repair and fix it yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, sewing's a lot about, you know, just kind of putting your personality out there. Like, it's a way to show your creativity. And it doesn't have to be through, like, a certain thing. Like, if you were to paint on canvas, you know, you can only kind of stick to painting on canvas. But if you're sewing, then you're kind of good at, you know, you can learn how to quilt really easily. You can learn how to embroider easily. You can learn how to just do apparel sewing easily. So
Yeah. Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Charlotte and I'm 10 years old. I've been sewing since I was 7 and my grandma taught me how to sew because she really likes sewing. I made a lot of skirts and shirts before, but they're too small now. The things I still have are this monster stuffed animal that I use my sewing machine to sew, and I hand sewed the details on, and I used a red marker for the smile. I also made a small one for my little cousin. And then I used my sewing machine to sew this scrunchie. And last week when we had a snow day, I hand sewed this pillow. Then I made these 4 headbands with my sewing machine. And I like sewing because it's very entertaining and you also get to use what you made and you don't just get to look at it. Thanks for watching.
Hi, my name is Carson Engelberger. I am 10 years old and I live in Georgia. I love to sew, and here's why. I can get creative and customize however I'd like. If something rips or tears, I can repair it easily. And sewing is a great life skill to have as an adult. The person who taught me how to sew was my grandma, who's very experienced and loves to sew. She started teaching me when I was about 4 years old, so I've been sewing for 6 years. That's a lot. I love to make pillows, tissue holders, and gifts. Thanks for watching. Bye!
Hope you enjoyed